Please tell us about impact investing first.
Okay, so impact investing is a global movement that's trying to make sure that capital is actually brought to the right places. So the word impact literally means like you're mobilizing capital for impact. So that's what IIX stands for. So IIX literally means Impact Investment Exchange. And we are a company that is actually headquartered in Singapore, but we have presence across 11 countries in Asia Pac. Our work has touched millions of people across the globe. So we are very excited to be here to kind of talk about what we are launching in the next phase to kind of make an impact into the Indonesia financial market.
What does your institution do for Indonesia, especially Indonesia's economy and also financial landscapes for Indonesia? And also, how do you see the landscape and trajectory for impact investing in Indonesia?
So we have been working in Indonesia for many years now. IIX is 15 years since our incorporation. We have been very deep into Indonesia for many years now through our different work that we have done, mainly mobilizing capital for the impact investing space. So we are working with enterprises in Indonesia. Through our last bond, we have a series of bonds called the Women's Livelihood Bond. And all these bonds are actually listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. The last bond that we closed on WLB6 is actually a $100 million bond. And through this 6 series of bonds, we have actually brought in about 30 million of capital into the Indonesian market for Indonesia companies that's mainly in financial inclusion and wash sector and everything that's going to try to spearhead. So our key thing is trying to make sure that the capital is mobilized into the right place with a very gender-empowered kind of instrument.
A wonderful commitment. Thank you so much for that commitment from IIX. So Angela, tell us about your orange movement or orange bonds. So we have a lot about the green bonds, the brown bonds.
Exactly.
Those are already familiar in Indonesia, but the orange bonds is the first time you're in
Very
here.
happy to talk about that.
So explain more about that.
Okay, so the orange bond initiative is IIX launched it on International Women's Day 2022. So it's been 2 years into the I guess it's the initiative in itself. It started because with an overarching goal of trying to mobilize $10 billion US into impacting 100 million lives for women, children, as well as the gender minorities. So the whole idea of it is being spearheaded by a global steering committee, where we are trying to make sure that we get the voices from everyone. So the steering committee includes people like the Australian government, like DFAT, the US government, DFC, Development Finance Corporation, as well as private sector players like ANZ and Nuveen, a $1 trillion asset manager in the US.
What are actually the main objectives of issuing these orange bonds, and what problems are they intended to solve? I mean, how do you compare the effectiveness and the return if it's being compared to the green bonds that has been existent in Indonesia?
It's a very good question, because we don't see orange bond as a competitor for green bond. It actually should complement the green bond. So, you know, Indonesia has been actually, I would like to congratulate the country, because you guys launched the first SDG bond in Asia in 2022. And so it was one of those things where we feel like a lot of the gender elements of what we are doing now can actually complement almost all this SDG or blue bond or green bond that is out there. The orange, why orange, is because it's the color of the UN SDG 5 for gender equality. So you see my pin here. So the whole idea of it is we are trying to push this gender agenda to make sure that the women's voices are actually seen as a solution to a lot of the problems that we see out there. And as we know, the SDG financing gap is 24,000 trillion rupiahs at this point and all this. And we are really trying to see how we can ensure that innovative financial product can actually help to close the gap by making sure that it's actually going to the right places with the right transparent impact measurement thing. As you know, in the market now, there's a lot of talk about impact washing and different things like that. So we mobilize different ways of doing this. Our structure is innovative in a sense that we actually de-risk it by using, with the help of government agencies to come in from the SIDA, Swedish government, and the US government, who come in and de-risk the bond. So the structure is innovative, that is guaranteed by them. And at the same time, we also ensure that we make sure that the impact is actually reaching the right people by doing this impact measurement through our IIX Values impact measurement platform, where it's automated and the voice of the end beneficiaries or stakeholders, and which are mainly women, are actually being heard. So it's actually measured and fully transparent. We have won like multiple awards from the UN bodies to make sure that these are all catered for in the whole train.
Yeah, I'm really wondering about how all of these orange bonds could get distributed to the one that is really needed. I mean, this is impact investing and impacting the lives of people, right? The women and the community and so on. Do you collaborate with the institutions in Indonesia regarding this? How do you get to the ground on this impact investing matter?
Yes, very much so. So when we first created the whole idea of this initiative, it was a very ground-up approach where we actually did several roundtables that took over 100 stakeholders that's in the roundtable, and most of these opinions that we're trying to collating is all coming from the Global South and the 99%. And Indonesia is actually a big part of this. Yeah. So we make sure that we collated all these things, and these stakeholders that we collated all the information are both from private sector, public sector, and of course civil societies too. So it includes UN bodies like the United Nations Capital Development Fund is also part of our advisory council. So we collated all this, and we basically is trying to stimulate the market by ensuring that there is certain guiding principles in the way we design such instruments. So it's all gender focused, ensuring that it actually goes to the right mission, ensuring that the money actually goes to the right thing. And all this is not meant to be contradicting any of the amazing bonds out there, you know, because we believe that the orange and the gender part should not be, it doesn't mean that you cannot be green and orange in that sense.